The Reconquista Initiative presents Embrace Leftist Lunacy, then Amplify It. Let's be honest. It is quite simply a fact that Western leftists, progressives, and SJWs harbor a particular hatred towards Orthodox Christian believers as well as other traditionalists. Furthermore, such leftists consider Orthodox believers and members of the hard political right to be their enemy, and they are, in fact, correct in this regard, for traditionalists are indeed a political threat to them and their ideology. It is, therefore, without a doubt the case that such leftists are a threat to traditionalists in the West. And so this threat is one which traditionalists must deal with if they are to survive in any significant way in the Western world. And so, in light of these points, it behooves traditionalists to have powerful rhetorical and political tactics at their disposal with which to fight against the left. And one of these tactics is to take leftist lunacy and then amplify it 100-fold. Indeed, it is the strategy of embracing the left's absurdities and then magnifying them to the point where the absurdity is made plain for all to see. It is, in essence, a reductio ad absurdum in rhetorical format. And note that this is a tactic which is, at least in part, inspired by Rule 4 and 5 of Saul Alinsky's book, Rules for Radicals, which argues that a radical should make the enemy live up to their own rule book, and also that ridicule is man's most potent weapon. Now, to see what is meant by this tactic of embrace, then amplify, let us consider the newest item that SJWs and progressives are pushing in the West, namely, the idea that everyone must call individuals by the gender pronoun or designation that the person in question feels that they are, not by the pronoun which relates to their biological sex and objective reality. Indeed, this is the newest push on the progressive front, and it is obvious why they are pushing for it. Controlling language and being able to potentially convict people for hate speech gives leftists and progressives immense power and control over the general populace. In fact, for many on the left, this pronoun issue is not even about the so-called transgendered people that they are claiming to care about, but rather it is about having one more state-sponsored cudgel available to beat traditionalists with. And so it is clear why this whole topic is a major concern. Thus, the key question becomes, how can the right embrace and then amplify this particular issue? Well, here are 3 ways to do so. And note that these 3 ways can also obviously be used for other subjects as well. Embrace, maintain, then amplify in frequency. The first method of embracing leftist absurdity and then amplifying it to the point of ridicule is to maintain whatever idea the left is offering and then amplify it in frequency. So, for example, some leftists and progressives claim that there are upwards of 50 to 100 different genders, which, remember, a person can be simply by feeling that he is that gender. Well, why only 50 genders? Why not 1,500 or 5,000? Surely there are many more genders than we currently think there are. So take the options that we presently have and amplify them exponentially. At the same time, since all that is required to be a certain gender is to feel that way, then why cannot you feel like you are a different gender every day or even every hour? Indeed, perhaps you need to create a schedule to inform your leftist friends what gender pronoun they should call you on Monday morning, Monday afternoon, Monday evening, and so on and so forth. In fact, maybe you should tell your leftist friends to check in with you after every conversation, just so that they can be sure that they are referring to you with the proper gender pronoun that you feel like you are at that particular moment. Anyway, you get the idea. Embrace the leftist lunacy, maintain it in its current form, but then amplify it in frequency, duration, and so on. Embrace, shift, then amplify the shift. The second method of embrace, then amplify, is to embrace the absurdity, but then slightly shift the focus of it in a direction that the leftist will not accept. So, for example, if the leftist asks you what gender pronoun you wish him to use for you, recoil in disgust at the fact that the leftist would assume to use a human pronoun for you. After all, that is showing human favoritism, and you actually feel like you are a cat. Or maybe you feel like an alien and need to be referred to by your alien designation. Or maybe you feel divine and thus feel the need to be called, "Oh, divine one." Or maybe you feel like you are of a different race or age or height or whatever. In essence, use the leftist's own ideals against him by forcing him to call you something which even he knows you are not, but which he cannot object to given his own principles. And if the leftist objects to doing so, then immediately start firing out the standard leftist epithets of racist, bigot, hater, etc. Either way, the leftist loses, at least in the rhetorical sense. Embrace, reverse, then amplify the reversal. The final method to consider is one where the leftist's own principles are used against him directly. So, for example, the next time a leftist demands that you address him through the gender pronoun of his choice, simply tell him that you cannot. When he asks why, advise him that your gender is as a child of God, which necessarily only recognizes two genders, and so it would be a betrayal of your gender to call him by his chosen gender. And again, remember to be immediately ready to play the bigot and or intolerant hater card against the leftist the minute that he tries to denigrate your chosen gender. So embrace the left's ideas, but then reverse them on the leftist in a way that the leftist cannot object to without blatant hypocrisy and inconsistency. And so the long and short of it is this. Embracing and amplifying leftist absurdities are an excellent tactic to counter progressives and SJWs. And three of the ways to embrace and amplify are through increasing the frequency of the embraced absurdity, shifting it slightly to something the leftist finds unacceptable, and or reversing it on the leftist. Now, will this tactic work on the leftists themselves? Likely not, for their worldview can only survive on incoherence and absurdity, and so they are used to it. Although, in fairness, you may convince the odd leftist to change his mind. However, convincing leftists and progressives is not the point. Rather, the point is to rhetorically neuter the leftists while at the same time helping to sway the fence-sitters to be against the leftists, not for them. And for the purposes of achieving that particular objective, embracing then amplifying leftist absurdities is a good tactic to use. Please subscribe to this channel and, if you wish, please support it either through PayPal at reconquistainitiative.com or through Patreon at patreon.com/reconquistainitiative. Thank you.